A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of Videonext Asia Week, an e-conference that looks to capture the goings on in the online video industry through conversations and discussions with the top names in the business. To begin with, I would like to thank our sponsors, presenting partner Woot, associate partners Pubmatic, Viduli, and Z5, and Insights partner NEPA for their support. Now, introducing you to the moderator of the session, Anirban Roy Chaudhary, Associate Editor, AFAX. Once again, thank you everyone for joining. Over to you, Anirban.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Devashish. It's an interesting session where we are now discussing OTT for family audience, and if it is going beyond mobile phones to the larger screens that we have at our homes, smart televisions, or through Fire Sticks or Chromecast. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great panel with me today: Vishnu Mohta from Hoichoi, Mr. Ajit Thakur from AHA, and Isha Nagar from NEPA. We will also have Divya Dixit joining us from Alt Anytime. Isha, I'd like to start with you. What's the insights telling us? Do you see more people now watching the content or OTT content through either your Fire Sticks and Chromecast, or maybe directly through internet to your smart television? What's the insights telling us?
Thank you, Anirban, for the opening. And so I'll just begin with what the data has been telling us. Though we are, we are in a market which has almost become where mobile is the be it all, right? And it's almost digital by default. At least what the consumer sentiment and the work that we have been doing in the content space tells us is that there definitely seems to be a divide in terms of the device preference and the content genres preference. It's not as simple as a straight linear TV or a mobile shift or a like if we can just call it out that we are seeing more shift towards linear TV maybe now in the post-pandemic world. Where the sector has been thrown into a hyperdrive, but yes, there are like selective takes. It could be more exclusive shows, more originals, which are gearing towards more mobile viewing or more individual viewing, and say a sports or a movies genres, which are like shifting given the lack of theaters to completely the Fire Sticks model that we are talking about, or the casting pace that we are talking about. So it's sort of a divide between the device into content genre, so to say. Not a clear shift, but yes, progressing with the times that we are in.
That's great. The ratio would be quite skewed towards mobile, and it's obvious because the penetration that's skewed too. But Vishnu, now that people have a good internet connection at their homes because of online classes or work from home, do you see more people now watching on larger screens?
Of course, yes. People are watching more on larger screens. It gives you the experience which that the smaller end screen really cannot give. But I think the question is larger, not about device. And like Vishnu and Ajit would agree, it's more about the content which is streaming, so to say, because it's more about what content can I watch with my family on the bigger screen versus what content I can watch as an individual. So it's not directly related to the device choices, and so to say, perhaps because society has forever kept family as a homogeneous cohort, like a very separate cohort when it comes to content viewing and entertainment. The shift is there, as I said, but it goes beyond just the device medium itself and more into socio-economic and cultural nuances rather than just the technology which is available.
Okay. Yeah, Vishnu, I was asking you. I mean, do you see this penetration or watching on larger screens growing with internet improving?
Oh, yes, of course. The way to think about it is that, as far as the website is concerned, that maybe has a 30 or 40-year legacy.
Yeah.
As far as apps are concerned, they've at least maybe have 15 years, 20 years of being into existence. I think as far as the smart TV and smart TV devices ecosystem is concerned, I think the world is progressively waking up to that. We've had, multiple years of, TVs being smart TV and smart enabled, but the price points were not conducive for a very, very mass rollout. But I think if you take the example of the last 2 years or so, I think, I don't know, virtually every TV that is out of the shop is a smart TV. Plus add on to that, layer to that, the ease with which, things like, there's more proliferation around the TV sticks and the, devices, if you like, so, whether it's the MI TV, it's, Fire TV, Roku TV, Apple TV. So, massive proliferation of those kind of, devices that enable a non-smart TV also to be able to consume that. And finally, I think even the cable operators, if you think about it, as a massive ecosystem in India, the MSOs, etc. I think, at least from our conversation, what we see is that most of them want to upgrade their devices now to a smart device. That's already happened for the case of the larger ones, larger DTH players. But I think even the MSOs and the cable operators are in increasing trend of having Android boxes, if you like, or a Linux box for that matter, as a general trend.
Great, great. That's where Ajit, you can come in. I mean, you've seen content, and congratulations to AHA for completing 1 year. It's one particular language that you are dealing with now, but you have also dealt with the overall Hindi-speaking market a lot, be it with Star or be it with Life OK. How do you see this content space? Do you think there's a need for more family-oriented content for the OTT players actually to hit the larger screen and become a family entertainment phenomenon?
Yeah, Anirban. So I have fairly clear views on what we have seen in the last 12 months. So AHA is new, but the data has always been there. So fundamentally, I think even before the conversion, so during the pandemic, the conversion from watching on mobile to watching on TV has definitely been fast tracked. And what was probably 15% earlier is probably closer to 35 to 40%, at least in data that we see. So that shift is already happening at a much faster pace than we thought. But even in the mobile economy, I have always fundamentally believed that the data that we are seeing, that it's primarily driven by young urban males, is actually not accurate. I think OTT, I believe, has a fairly large, widespread audience, which includes kids and women as well. So that's the first thing. And I think with television viewers, the conversion happening through, like Vishnu was talking about, devices and all of it, as they watch more and more on TV, that conversion will happen faster.
Okay.
But at the same time, OTT is a personalized medium of consumption, right? You can watch it when the TV forced you to view it together at 8 p.m. for a certain primetime show. That's never going to be OTT, right? So even if it's watched on television, I don't think the average number of people watching it together will be more than 2 or 1.5. But they are all watching it at different points of time. In the same house, there might be 2 people on TV, somebody on mobile, and all of it. Okay. So I fundamentally believe that this thing that OTT audience needs only a certain kind of content is an exaggeration. The family audience have been there. They're coming in more numbers. And I believe that successful OTT content template is where you can cater to every member with the content they want, versus television where you cater to every member with one content that is driven by one particular person of the family. That's a difference, but they all need their content. So kids' content will coexist with a very, very dark thriller. And it's only an increasing trend. So I believe that there is a significant family audience already on OTT.
Great. Vishnu, you have a huge library of Bengali movies as well. A few of them are old classics. So when people are streaming those, do you see the family viewing phenomenon growing, especially for such content, or is it still they like to watch it at the mobile devices?
So I mean, I'd like to jog back a little bit and think about a time when we think about a typical family watching it together. In the gone by era. So that was a time when there was one television per household, and that was mostly in the living room, and it was linear dictated appointment viewing, everybody coming together 8 p.m., 9 p.m., whatever, and gluing on to that particular time slot, and it became a community activity. Versus today, where I mean, in a lot of households, I won't say in every household, but in a lot of households, you'll see multiple television sets that exist today. That has, for a lot of people, laptop is, as much as it serves the purpose of a television set for a lot of personal viewing also, even if we reflect our own lifestyles also. So I don't think it can be dissected the exact same way. It cannot be viewed exactly the same way where, we combine, layer that era to today, where everybody's connected. Even if you're watching television or anything else, you're doing 100 things at the same time, right? You're watching, fiddling on your phone. You might be watching something else altogether. You might be watching a YouTube video for that matter. So I think that entire classification of families also, families are more and more nuclear, as we speak. And, do you consider, just, digressing from just movies, let's say, even if there's an edgy thriller for that matter, I mean, couples do see it together, right? At a lot of times, because that's their time together also. Do you consider that to be family viewing or not? Is a completely different, discussion altogether, I guess. So I think you have to layer that with, that level of what comprises families today, what comprises a singular television household versus multiple television households, multiple devices, as opposed to the singular device in the entire house. So very different ecosystem altogether today.
That's a very good point, actually. Thank you, Vishnu. Aisha, why don't you come here and pitch in, because do you see particular genres working well when it comes to watching together with the family on the larger screen? Or as Vishnu says, I mean, it's like even if it's only a nuclear family with a couple and the kids sleeping, they could actually watch a thriller together.
Yeah, I think Vishnu brought forth, a very nice point about the family structures. Because if we compare content to a simple consumable, right, like a product in FMCG, it's not like as simple as an individual using a fairness cream and introducing it to the rest of the households. Like it's not as straitjacketed as is. So beyond the family structure, the identities and even choices, individual as well as group watching choices really come into play. And we have seen, I think, as I said, more originals, which are like centered towards themes which could be for an individual liking, ranging from progressive to like more bolder themes that we are exploring today. It's like from the if I have to talk about a 3-point mantra, then it should be that the hyperdrive is just leading to more acceptability of such themes in the living room, maybe more adaptability of the group watching those individual things which are being maybe washed in a mobile format otherwise today. And the third would be the actualization of the very evolving Indian modern family. Like, look at the family dramas that we used to watch on, say, like, which we call as GEC or the general entertainment. Those versus the kind of family dramas which are being like minted at the moment by different OTT players. So the actualization of that content is just faster. Of course, there are genre preferences where sports and movies, I think, continue to be, with a bit of borrowing from the individual content coming into the living room scenery. So it's a slow progression on those, but the actualization is definitely something which is happening between the shift of genres.
Okay, great. I'll take a moment and request all the participants, please put in your questions. I already have few of them and I'll try and address them as we progress in this discussion. There's a question for Ajit. It's particularly for you. Are you saying the difference between TV and OTT is not the kind of content, but the choice of time and the number of people watching it on the big screen? You are muted, Ajit.
I want to start by saying that that's not entirely the point, but that's part of the point. And let me go back to my TV days. Even the TV days when I was running Sony or later Life OK, I fundamentally believed that there was a much wider audience range in terms of genres they were seeking than just the daily soaps. But because it was driven by viewership on one television set, which was linear, the predominant one became the soaps over time, right? But every time when a channel tried to break that and break new ground, right, whether it's the KBC or crime shows or comedies, there was an alternative audience for that. But that the linear method limited the experimental genres that people could do, especially when you're in an advertising-driven system, right? So I think the need for various genres is always there. So on that one, I agree. To the point, a question being asked, yes, I was saying that. But OTT has many other manifestations which has allowed it to go towards a slightly different the way the narratives are. So one is the pace of narratives, the amount of time people want to commit. That if I like a story, I want to consume it in one day rather than over a period of a month. So there are many format structures that have changed, and yes, some new genres have come in which can survive, which earlier on television would have been on niche channels, can become mainstream here. Because the big niche hits are the ones that are defining the benchmarks without naming the shows. If you look at the shows that have been working in the last 1 year, big hits, they are they are shows that are targeting a certain niche.
Correct.
Nothing is uniting everybody together like the 9 p.m. TV shows. But the
Correct.
need for this was always there. Having said that, I think OTT has a younger skew. So
Okay.
that means that in terms of the amount of time they'll commit to it, the ability to experiment with newer genres is there. And the cost of that is not very high in this case. I think OTT allows us to experiment a lot more on the content we want to do and play to big niche segments as much as the mass segments. But I think the variety of genres was always an audience need that to an extent TV didn't address.
Okay. Ajit, are these big niches the niches that were under delivered by television? Like, do you categorically go for them?
I would say yes. So I would say crime thrillers were underdeveloped delivered with television, and it's become the 60% of content on OTT, right?
Correct.
But the CID was the most successful show till it ran in the
Correct.
country, right?
Correct.
But yes, the narrative structure of CID won't work on OTT, but the thematically it absolutely works. Or why Crime Patrol and Savdhan Indias and all of them work, right? So crime thrillers were always a big genre, which are being catered to a lot more by OTT. But that again is becoming a norm for the OTT. I think there's space for drama. I'll give you an example.
Yes,
So in
please.
our first few months, we also skewed towards crime thrillers because we knew that that's where the binge watching and all happens. And in July, driven by the fact that we could not produce enough, right, because of the pandemic, we were dependent on film acquisitions, and we acquired 3 or 4 pure love stories, right, which were not in any of the people would otherwise say crime, comedy, and drama, right, as OTT core buckets. So we acquired love stories one after the other between July to November. And not only did they drive growth, we saw a skew in terms of the gender skew, the age skew was very different in those 3 months. So I think the OTT is basically democratizing content in a way that television could never do. So there is space. I don't know what the next new genre would be, but I would bet on docu-series, something that mass television never explored. But docu-series is a fabulous genre if you see the international players. And I think now in India, we've just seen the beginning of it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
would it have survived the 9 p.m. TRP? No. Will it find a big niche here? Absolutely.
Yeah, and there are platforms now that are doing only documentaries. I mean, Curiosity Stream in the West and the DocuBay in India as well. Vishnu, there's a question from Dr. Joyita Chatterjee. She's asking, do you go for does the device-based strategy, content strategy, play a role in your mind when you are commissioning or actually acquiring content? Do you go for remembering that your young generation using laptops, mobile phones, older generation maybe for does that play a role, the device strategy, device-based content strategy?
Very honest, I've never thought about it like that, a device-based strategy, but it's very interesting. No, honestly not. I think, most of us, most of the core subscription OTT platforms like AHA with Ajit and in our use case are subscription-driven platforms,
Correct.
which the broad assumption is that a vast majority of them may have more than one device. And the same person might have multiple devices of consumption depending on their preference at that point in time, availability, mood, a million other factors for that matter, internet connectivity, etc., etc. So I don't think we look at device-based strategy when we think about content, but because you are universally available, right? I mean, in our case, we are universally available. So we actually want the customer to have every choice at every touch point to be able to consume that content, especially when they're paying for it, as they please. And if tomorrow there's another, I don't know, device that comes along, I don't know, in a VR headset, we'll have to enable and be present there for that matter. So it's about keeping up with it and putting great stories out there. I think it's not just about the same person watches different kinds of content, different days, different months, and with different people. So I think it's not a very simplistic, generalistic discussion around, okay, this is meant for this or this is meant for that. Everybody is different and everybody is versatile. Even if we look at our own content choices, they vary and change depending on our mood, depending on who we are with, depending on the time of the day, and a million other things, I guess.
Correct. Correct. Thank you. Welcome, Divya.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm late, guys.
No. Thank you for making it. We are discussing about the possibilities of OTT as family entertainment, and from the lenses of Alt Balaji, I'm sure you have insights to share. So could you shed some light? I mean, what kind of content do you see people watching on the larger screens at home together with the family?
Sorry, but you're not very audible. Your question is, what kind of content do?
Can you hear me clearly?
Slightly better. What kind of
Yeah, I'm
content?
saying, are there any insights on what kind of content people like to watch on the larger screens with their family?
Uh, this is actually a multiplex question. I'm an OTT player. Having said that, I think larger screens have always been more of friends and family.
I'll just
kind
correct
of immersive
myself.
experience.
I'll just explain it a
Yeah.
little bit better. A larger screen, I mean the screen that is there at your home, be it the television,
You mean the
smart
connected
TV.
devices?
Yes,
You
yes,
mean the
yes.
connected
Yes,
devices?
sitting
All
together
right.
with the family and watching the content.
Sure. Okay. So during the pandemic, COVID, we've of course seen this. While this was anyway happening, the parallel track of individual viewing and inclusive viewing, inclusive being the connected devices, whether through a laptop or a smart television. I think pandemic has given an acceleration to it, right? So if 10 million people have done the cord cutting in those initial 6 months of pandemic itself, we can imagine how many more connected devices are going up. And if you look at the fact, smart TV sales have gone up drastically. It's almost 25% incremental in terms of smart TV sales. However, people in India are still learning how to use smart TV, right? So the fact that you're using an app on a smart TV rather than using a smart TV because it's higher definition and better sound, these are two parallelly different things. Having said that, we do see that in future, OTTs are going to become mainstream content viewing because if you look at it, OTT need not just be originals. OTTs also are now working towards providing music, digital news, etc., right? So it becomes a one-stop solution for all your entertainment, news, music kind of requirements. If you look at, for example, a Z5, today it has launched a YouTube kind of a service. It has a short format service. It has a news service. They're also planning to launch music, I think, soon, right? And they have catch up because it's a network back app, right? Now, if you have a proposition like that, I mean, I'm literally selling them, but I'm speaking the truth. And the truth remains that very soon television, laptop, etc., will just become devices to disseminate content. And the content will actually be digital. It has turned practically digital also due to the fact that cinemas were shut during pandemic and still, even now that they are open, we all know that the footfalls are, hardly there. People are now imagining in the multiplex industry that probably the Diwali releases will bring back the footfall, and I hope it does for them because I also think that cinema and OTT can coexist. It's a little difficult to get ROI on OTT platforms for big budget movies, right? So inclusive viewing is here to stay. I strongly feel it's here to stay. Our content strategy at Old Balaji is now working on two parallel tracks. We will continue creating shows for individual and mobile viewing because those are not going anywhere, right? Because there are a lot of shows that I prefer to watch, and then there are a lot of shows my husband watches, and then there are a lot of shows my daughter watches, and these don't intersect. And then there are shows like Aparan on our platform, or let's say a Gullak on Sony Dev that we all watch together as a family. These are parallel tracks that I very, very strongly feel are only going to get stronger in the near future.
Okay, that's very nicely put. But is when you are commissioning shows, do you strategize it in this manner that this is a show that I would like the families to come and watch together?
Of course, because your treatment of the show, your dialogues, your scripting, your characters, right? They will have a certain kind of nuances if it's a family show, like a mental hood, right? It is meant to be a family show, though it's a show based on different kinds of mothers, right? And initially the pitch was that, listen, let every mother around the globe identify with it, if you're not this kind, then you're this kind, right? However, it ended up becoming a family show because, you know what, mom is a universal figure, right? The family revolves around a mother. So the way that you commission a show is obviously dependent on the fact that what are you targeting as an audience? Are you targeting a family, or are you targeting a niche individualistic view? And that is how you will read the storyline, you will hire actors, you will commission the treatment, etc., etc.
Okay, that's great. Esha, do you see enough mirroring of Western insights when it comes to this concept of watching on larger screens? Because in the West, they watch Netflix on television.
Yes.
So do you see that happening? Like, are we following similar trends in India?
Yes, I definitely feel that the cord cutting concept is here to stay, and we are seeing that shift already in the Western countries. I think the evolution just happened like way ahead of us, where of course the content choices and as I said at the start of the session, for us, preferably the society has kept family by and large as a very separate homogeneous cohort. But at the end of it, if it comes to different individuals watching and the themes appealing to them, a lot of things can be watched together in the living room. So that is definitely coming in India as well. And I think it's going to continue to stay largely in terms of content that like sort of just keeps on switching between the devices. It's going to be about resisting certain themes, maybe when it comes to individual versus family watching, embracing it together maybe. And the third one is finding a balance, a very fine balance between what is casted together versus what is watched alone. But are we following the footsteps of a lot of countries where this evolution has already happened? Very much so, yes.
Okay, okay, that's great. Ajit, if we were to see more people watching on larger screens, like again on connected devices, will it be new people, or do you see the subscribers gradually graduating to that phenomenon of watching through mirroring devices or through smart TV? You first acquire the customer, and then they gradually move into that concept of watching on the larger screens.
So that's the fun of OTT, right? I think it's giving amazing individual choices to people. So I think there will be a time when people will continue to watch when they are on the go or outside their homes on the mobile phones. But with the same consumer, when they come back home, probably they'll watch it on the TV through one of the devices. So I think that will happen. There'll also be a certain kind of content that they will watch on the connected devices. But even while they're sitting in front of the TV set, they might be watching a different kind of content on their mobiles. So I think that is why I love the medium, because it's extreme customization, extreme individual, taste. So I think it's not a distinct set. The person who's watching on a TV set through a device is probably the same person who earlier in the day has watched it on mobile. But increasingly bigger screens will happen to OTT, because as we are investing in bigger content, they will watch it on all kinds of screens, not just the mobile screen. But will the mobile screen become irrelevant? Not for a long time.
Okay, okay, Vishnu. Is it a matter of viewing experience as well? I mean, the apps are doing fantastic in enhancing the viewing user experience, even in the mobile interface. But when you graduate to the television screen, is it like is that a game of experience there?
Um, Not, I mean, if we discussed this maybe a few years back, maybe that was increasingly the case. But I think if you talk today, uh, take the example of, let's say, a Fire TV. I see a lot of the 40, 50 plus generation, I mean, age group actually preferring to watch things on Fire Stick, and that's because it's a very simplified remote, right? It's about 4 or 5 buttons, top, right, etc., and pause and play. And it's a lot more intuitive than even in some cases, you know, doing things on your phone for them. At least that's been my experience in some use cases, and I've seen their go-to device being something like a Fire Stick or a Apple TV. So I think today it's becoming as intuitive as is, on just about every device is becoming very powerful. There was a time when most of these connected devices were not very powerful. Most of these smart TVs also do not have enough, let's say RAM or CPUs, etc., and all that. But increasingly, I think everybody is warming up to the fact that it's becoming more universal. They are built around, a lot of cases, they built around either an Android TV or a Linux platform, which is a similar platform to what you'd find on your mobile set actually. A lot of them are actually HTML5, so that means it's an offshoot of what you would how you develop for your websites.
Correct.
So it's all converging in a lot of sense. There are a lot of new platforms that are coming along. Technically speaking, like there's something called Kotlin multi-platform, which allows you to develop once and roll it out everywhere. There's React Native. So there are multiple ways where you sort of have a homogeneous experience across all your touch points. For that matter.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Divya, there is a question. When you are devising your marketing, maybe for a show or for the platform. So, firstly, for the show, now when there is a show, as you said, like a mentalhood or mom, for example, do you have a different family audience as your target group?
Of course. So, for example, it is all dependent on the product that you're launching at a given point of time, right? If you're, let's say, launching a mom or a mental group, then you're looking at primary target audience to be women of a certain age, right? And then you have your secondary audience. Whereas when you're launching a punch beat, which is largely a show meant to bring in 15 to 20 kind of, kids, your mediums, the way that you think, the strategy, the reach out points, etc., will be very, very different. So it's all dependent on what is the kind of product that you're launching. So I'll give you an example. So for, let's say for mental health, we did multiple activities, screening in PBRs, tying up with various mom portals, um, tying up with various mom brands and tying up with the hair salons, etc., because that's where women of a certain age are going to be. Whereas for a punch beat, we went strictly into young dance bars, clubs, coffee places, malls, because that's where the kids hang out. And this is obviously over and above the digital, the performance marketing, etc., that you do. So everything is streamlined. Every show has its own identity, its own nature, its own target audience that you're going to customize and reach out to for the superior ROI.
Okay, that's great. Ajit, there's a question for you. You mentioned kids at one space. Uh, do you think kids genre will play a pivotal role in getting family audience to consume OTT content together?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, I think diversity of content is an integral part to the OTT's future content path. And kids will play an important role. But within kids, they'll need to be segmented further. Again, that's an advantage that OTTs will have over linear broadcasting. So what the kids below 7 years want to watch is different from the 8 to 12 versus the teenagers. So I think they will play a bigger role. Also, remember they are much more savvy on the gadgets and the devices. But currently, there's not enough content for them, except for the content coming from catch up to from linear to catch up apps. So I think they'll be very, very important.
Okay, Esha, there is a question for you. Is India behind slash ahead of OTT content testing? How different is it to what's happening globally?
Okay, so this is not about the trend. This is just about the testing
Yeah.
side. Okay, so I would say that we are not like behind, we are catching up. But however, we are seeing, we used to depend upon just primary, simple A/B content testing earlier, and we are getting into a lot of passive ways of testing content as well. And now, of course, we have been experimenting with a lot of modern methodologies like Neuro. In terms of testing content, in terms of how people are reacting to certain characters, scripts, so to say. Because with content, I think with India in particular, emotions are always going to be high. So, as compared to the Western countries, the viewership is, it's exactly mirrors the social media consumption of a person. Say, for example, my digital appetite and maybe my content consumption is going to be, like a straight line graph between the other two. But for us, the technology decisions run very high on emotional intensity. So adoption of content for what I say I would like to watch versus what I might watch on my mobile screen can completely differ. And thus, we are seeing a lot of changes in terms of how we are testing content currently. In terms of straight asking, like straight surveys in which we can ask versus how people are consuming across media platforms, etc. So we aren't like exactly similar, but we are fast catching up with the content boom and also the global focus on content for the country.
Great. Great. Vishnu, there is one question. It is about customer acquisition, and I'll ask the same to Divya as well. Do you see customer acquisition becoming easy, the cost of acquisition going down in India?
Actually, not really. For the simple reason that, when we started acquiring customers, so it's a two-edged sword, right? Uh, Customer acquisition becomes easier, of course, when the industry is known, it's aware, more people are willing to adapt it. So there is an organic footfall, and your pool size increases, so your net on the customer acquisition also is easier, cheaper, etc. But let's not forget that India is also becoming a market of 40 plus OTT players, right? There is a fierce fierce competition out there for the consumer to be on your platform. On an average consumer doesn't want to pay more than 2.5 apps, right, for entertainment. So it becomes expensive, especially at times when there are huge events happening, like an IPL coming on, right, or a Big Boss, and the inventory costs shoot up. However, all said and done, I think at Alt, we are doing probably one of the sharpest customer acquisition. While we have, for the lack of resources, because we are one of the smallest platforms, with smallest budgets, whether it's customer acquisition or, for that matter, even content or tech, necessity is the mother of innovation, I think, rather than invention. But what also happens in such a case is that when you're so small, when you're so sharp, and I wear two hats, which is marketing and revenue, you're constantly looking at the fact, how much do I need to spend to double the revenue? So as it is, you're walking that tightrope. So and we are anyway doing one of the smartest, and I know what my competition is acquiring the consumer at. We're already fairly sharp. If anything else, see that the digital inventories are set to explode. The digital inventories will also, the CPM and the CPS and the CPV will also depend a lot on the digital environment existing at that point of time, right? So these are fluctuating. I don't see it coming down. I only see it going up. It's going to be a fight for performance marketeers and consumer subscribers and growth strategists to actually keep the cost stable, right? Of course, you're forever trying to reduce it, bring it down, etc., etc. That's an ongoing process, needless to say.
Okay, Vishnu, when you are going for one particular, people who consume in or talk in one particular language, is it different for you, the customer acquisition?
It's a little different because we can be a little bit more targeted, I guess, in terms of some of the very, very broad classifications that we do when we try to go after a customer or spend on acquiring a customer. But that's where the similarities, that's where the advantages ends, right? Ultimately, we are also multilingual today. When we speak multilingual, we're having this discussion in English. We'll watch a Hindi content. In some cases, we'll watch our native language content. So it's all, the same customer can have multiple content choices, and you cannot just dissect a customer just basis of affinity. So to answer the previous question around whether acquisition costs are coming down, I think it's not going down for sure. What I do see is, however, it becoming a bifactor of the long-term value of every customer also. So there's a lot of buzz around UPI becoming autopay. Paytm is autopay at recurring today. When 60-70% of the payments become recurring, the use case for acquiring a customer at even higher cost become much better than having customers who do not have an automatic renewal system in the case of India. That obviously differs vastly when it comes to outside India, in a lot of developed countries, etc. But having that seamless ability to make payments and the ability to have access to multiple payment methods is an extremely important bifactor of how many people can you actually target in the first place.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Ajit, there's a question for you. Do you think regional OTT players like AHA or Hoichoi will need to diversify further and add more Indian languages to actually compete with the others who are having multiple languages on their one platform?
Yeah, multiple thoughts on that one. But thank you for the question. I couldn't get the name of the person.
It is
Actually,
anonymous attendee. I also don't have the name.
So actually, AHA going only in Telugu was a conscious choice. It wasn't, it wasn't something that we started out with. And incidentally, especially for you, Redwan, Vishnu personally was a mentor through the entire AHA setup process, and Hoichoi was a benchmark. When we started out, the promoters originally wanted to go in for all the 4 South languages. And as I spent time traveling the length and breadth of the 2 states, the sheer demand for content and the gaps that existed told us that just Telugu OTT is as big as any other opportunity in the country, which we have seen in broadcasting earlier. Today, the biggest film from India is actually a Telugu film and not a Hindi film. So I think the languages,
audio. We lost you for a bit, Ajay.
So I say languages is one of the ways to customize to this individual OT customer, right? So it was a
Conscious choice. Wait one sec, I'll just take off.
Yeah, it's clear. We can hear you.
So language was a conscious choice, right, to go into it. And everything that we have seen in the last 1 year has told us that it was the right strategy to go into. Because remember that whether it's a Hindi speaking audience or a language speaking audience, they're looking for a daily or at least a weekly engagement. So we had a choice to do 10 shows in 4 languages or 40 shows in 1 language. And we went with the latter. And that has given us the returns, the 2x or 3x the returns that we all thought of when we started out. That's how big the opportunity is. And I think we have just scratched the surface, whether it's with AHA in Telugu or Hoichoi in Bengali. So from a survival point of view, I think each language can be a big market in itself. And there's a lot of a growth story. At the same time, there's an opportunity to diversify. But again, I go back to that argument on niches. The next available niche may be another language or could be a genre. It could be music, it could be live television and so on and so forth. So I think it depends on the promoter's appetite in terms of how far they want to invest. But if the appetite is limited, the one language is good enough for a long-term growth strategy. If there is more appetite and there is an intention to go bigger, then you can pick another language or just a genre and continue to diversify and grow. And Hindi is not necessarily the only answer to do it.
Okay. Vishnu, quickly, one point, because when you are talking about one language, you are not necessarily talking about one market, right? There's a big diaspora that resides outside India. What have you observed over the last few years that you've been there? Subscribers, are they coming only from one particular, maybe say West Bengal, or do you see enough spread away inside as well as outside India?
No, I think Anirban, you're Bengali, you're based in Bombay, right? So that's a part of the question. But I guess it's all over the place. Yeah, that's why we are in the OTT business. I mean, for us, it's not a 3-year exercise of focusing on one language. It's been a 25-year exercise of focusing on one language, where all our life's work has been around building content from films, television, web, focused on one particular category. And we don't think the job is half done for that matter. And I think we still come back to work knowing that there's such a big cohort of people that we've not reached out to, or who have not come online from a core video consumer point of view, and who've not become core e-commerce, video e-commerce, or e-commerce customers in general. So I think we are all. I mean, I can say that for Divya, Ajit, and for myself, because we are all in the subscription space. I think the pay audience is a subset, a small subset of the overall free or overall video audience in the ecosystem, I guess. So I think for us, it's a question of how many of them actually transition from being a free customer or a customer to being a paid customer at some point in time.
Vishnu, I hear your pain. I hear your pain.
So exactly. So
and the best part is that they believe it's their birthright to have the entertainment free. I shouldn't even say this in the open forum, but okay. How are the content creators supposed to pay the bills, or the directors or the actors supposed to survive?
Sure.
That's a question mark, but I hear your pain.
No, absolutely. And I think that's hopefully what will keep us going, that there's a bigger audience out there, at least, if not more,
But it would be, sorry, I'm interjecting. It's heartening to know.
Sure.
When I started the digital journey, SVOD was only 5%. Today we are standing at a good 28%. So thank you there.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's a growing ecosystem, I guess. That's the only thing that's heartening.
Divya, there's one question which you can take, and then I'm sorry to all the participants. I think this is the last question that I can take. I have 30-odd questions there. I'm sorry I could not address all of them. Divya, can animation become a next big thing itself, and not only for kids, even for the grown-ups?
Okay, so I don't know about animation as much, but immersive content is the next best thing to happen. We've tried that with Ragini MMS, where we created a 10 minutes immersive content capsule, and probably we are one of the first Indian OTT platforms to do it, because I've checked all other Indian OTT platforms. Nobody's really done it, and this was done almost 2 years ago when we launched Ragini MMS. Yeah, and it worked beautifully for us. People were, really willing to watch it, be immersed in it. We did a press con, we got journalists, etc. Everybody to try their hand at it. However, what the issue is, it's expensive as a product today. So I can't do it for every show, right? Even as a marketing gimmick or 10 minutes, it's expensive as a product. The second part is that forget about that, then getting translated into an entire series of 3 hours or 5 hours, that's an even higher expenditure. That's the thirdly, it needs a certain kind of virtual reality equipment, right? For a person to be immersed into it. Even if you take up the basic ones, you need, like those cameras that has a slot and your mobile can slip into it and then you can attach your hands free to it and watch. So it's an ongoing thing. Is it going to be the next big thing in near future? I don't know, but it's something I think OTT platforms will want to take up. The other thing which probably they would want to take up is interactive episodes again in near future. So I think these two things should happen pretty quickly.
Great, great. Last questions for all three of you, and then I'll go to Isha and ask a detail about what she sees in the future. Divya, with you, when we say family entertainment, what do you think will trigger the growth of this particular phenomenon?
Sorry, you said when we
Family
think of
entertainment. When I'm saying like OTT content being watched together, sitting in a family on a TV screen, what do you think will trigger the growth for this phenomenon in India?
you mean what is going to grow the family entertainment in India? Is that the question?
No, I'm asking you if family entertainment, that is what the session is about, watching together with the family, if that has to grow in India, what do you think will trigger that growth?
Sure, I get it. I get it. So, okay, family entertainment I think has been around for years and years and years, right? I, as a mom, used to sit and watch Doraemon and Shinchan with my daughter. I was the secondary audience, right? Because my daughter's watching and I need to do some policing, I'm doing it. Cinema, they have been the flag bearers of family entertainment, because where else will you get 3 hours of immersive experience, in 200 rupees, all expenses paid kind of thing. Family entertainment is going to grow because that is probably the only time that families today are sitting together and spending some time together. Otherwise, you have very daily rush lives, at least in metros and semi-metros. You have daily rush lives, you have your own schedules, your exercise, your gyms, your offices, etc., etc. Family entertainment is here to grow and all set, 100%.
Great. Ajit, what will trigger that growth? Will it be high budget films that you stream directly before the theatrical release, or will it be the originals?
I think good stories, and I would probably say that keeping that theatrical business is again dependent on the top line metrics. It will probably come from originals, because but not by a certain kind of content for the family, but by more and more diverse content to different people at different age groups, different gender, different parts of the country. Because remember, all these kids have grown up watching different languages, subtitles. I have met kids in a small town in Andhra who watch Korean and American as much as local content. So a lot of variety of content, very well written across genres. And the more we write, remember, the first adopter will be the one who's the target for the niche. But eventually, from that niche will the Narcoses and Money Heists of the world, emerge. So lots of well-written, good content across genres, rather than trying to target one kind of content to everyone. And the more we do it, the more people will come in, and it'll eventually be everybody in the family watching. Maybe not the way they watch television ever, but they will watch together.
Okay, Vishnu, your thoughts on what will grow this?
Yeah, I'm at a risk of repeating what Ajit and Divya just mentioned. I'll go the other way around. You think about our incentivizations, it is more aligned to everybody in the household having a separate subscription rather than one subscription in everybody in the household. So I think in a lot of cases, we'd want people to have, their own, solo experiences as much as family experiences, and their own, profiles and their own environments and their own, subscriptions that they manage individually, and not just one per household, I guess, which is how I guess print, or for that matter, television was aligned towards and incentivized towards. We always talk about TV households. We never talk about OTT households. We talk about OTT individuals.
That's great. It's such a great progress, I must say. 3 years back, when I had asked this question to similar set of panelists, they would say bandwidth, high speed internet. all of that used to be the challenges. Today we are not even discussing those. That's where I ask you to Isha to pitch in. I mean, what do you see the future trend to be? If this has to grow, where will it grow? Will it grow in only metros, or do you see, as they have not mentioned internet as a problem at all? Maybe the penetration is done. So do you see it happening from all across?
Yeah, Nirvan, I think I'll just try and add some consumer sentiment color, given that we've already had 3 brand perspective. But I think it's going to have that natural flow that any category has. It is going to take that funnel approach of metros to non-metros, but ultimately we are heading toward digital by default. Like at the end of it, it is for the masses. Of course, we are talking about growing internet penetration, mobile being the route, that takes us there. But what is going to be the core, I think, for the growth is inclusion, more inclusivity of themes, and also second realism, which is something that appeals for all. Of course, there could be the niche and the exclusive, the genres that are being watched on individual screens. But more and more family entertainment context, I think, lies on these two. And there can forever be a debate between resisting certain kind of content on individual versus living room screens, or embracing it all and watching it together. But inclusion and actualism, I think, is the way to go.
Great. Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Ajit. Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Vishnu. It was a pleasure talking to you all, and it was a learning session for me as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anirban. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for having us.
Bye,
Cheers.
guys.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot.